Thank you, James. I thought we'd start this final session here with a little toast. So I'm going to get drunk. No, not kidding. Oh no, half a glass of wine? I don't think so. So cheers to everybody for being here and for sharing this amazing weekend. And don't let it stop here. So we were talking about a very important thing about how to create the foundation and kickstart this small town or the small community into making people unite around community projects and so forth. And what became very evident to me several years ago is that electricity and energy is going to be the foundation for it and could really be the unifying factor. So just keep that in mind, because if you do have access to an alternative source of electricity, it'll really make your process a lot simpler. In South Africa, we have an interesting situation, which in many ways is mirrored here in the USA and in Canada with tribal lands that belong to tribal chiefs and so forth. Same as here in the Native American reservations and so forth, where there are not as many draconian laws that are imposed on the people, and the tribal chiefs have got a lot more say about what happens on their tribal land, and the government has very little interference. And that's a great opportunity. In South Africa, we have around 200 tribal chiefdoms, and many of the chiefs have sold out to the government, sold their land not sold it, given it away for BMWs and big fancy houses. And they get bribed and lied to and manipulated into trading land, valuable land, for stupid, things. And this is a great opportunity, because there are still many of these chiefs that are really true to the African philosophy and the true sense of the tribal chiefdoms and so forth. But they're losing their people. They've lost a lot of their people to the cities, where people have left the tribal lands and gone to the cities in search of jobs. And then once they get sucked into that matrix, they're lost. And they get trapped and they're stuck, and there's no way for them to get back, because now there's nothing for them to go back to. The tribal chiefs have got virtually no one that they're chiefs to, and they're desperately looking to restoring that balance and recreating a beautiful place to live in the tribal land. So it provides us with a great opportunity. So when I get back, one of the first things we're going to be setting up are several meetings with some of these tribal chiefs, which I think, again, can be echoed and mirrored in the USA and Canada and other parts of the world where chiefdoms and tribal land exists. And if we can provide the chiefs, first of all, you don't have to explain the philosophy of Ubuntu to African people. They understand it. All we have to explain to them is how we're going to introduce and spread this philosophy and this contributionism philosophy in these tribal lands. If we can go there and offer them an alternative source of electricity, that is a great point of departure, because that will solve a lot, if not all, their immediate problems. Because what you'll find out, for example, one of the community projects where we are, the bakery is closed. It's been closed for nearly a year now, because the lady that ran the bakery couldn't afford to pay the electricity bill. It's as simple as that. These are simple, practical problems. In the USA, that's probably not as big a problem, but in South Africa, when somebody earns the equivalent of, say, $1,000 a month, which in South Africa is 1,000 Rand a month, which in America is actually $100 a month. So somebody earns 1,000 Rand a month, they're spending 400 Rand a month on electricity. That's 40% of the money that they're earning. So you see that this becomes a big, big problem and a real hurdle to survival for most people, especially those that are living on the breadline. So providing people with a food kitchen as a point of departure, but having that alternative source of electricity. Even if we can find one tribal chief out of 200 that wants to go with this philosophy, that's all it will take. That's it. One of them suddenly will create paradise. All the people that belong to that chiefdom will suddenly want to come back. But they won't open their doors just to their own tribal people. They'll open their doors to everyone that wants to come in there. And this will create an interesting situation, an interesting problem to deal with. Now everybody wants to come back to paradise, and And many of the other chiefs will see this and see, wow, we're going to emulate this because we also want to be a chief in paradise. And this is, I believe, going to be this can happen quite quickly. So I'm really looking forward to getting home in the middle of September after our tour of Europe and start to implement this as quickly as possible. Now, what happens? The tribal chiefs are often very closely connected and affiliated with tribal healers or traditional healers. And you know what the pharmaceutical and the drug companies and the government are doing to traditional healers. They're doing their very best to make sure that they disappear, that their modalities and their healing modalities are suppressed and disappear from mainstream public scrutiny. And this is a great opportunity. One of the community projects, for example, should be a small pharmaceutical laboratory or a small laboratory that can just make mixtures and shampoos and toothpastes and body lotions and etc. etc. Anything that you can make in a very small little laboratory. You can make loads of stuff so that you then introduce the knowledge and the wisdom of the tribal traditional healers to put into the stuff that you make for your community, and suddenly the community doesn't have to go buy shampoos that are filled with poisons and toxins. They can come once a week or once a month to just refill their container and have beautiful traditional organic made shampoo and soaps and lotions and so forth and toothpaste, and let your mind run wild, right, with all this. And then start packaging traditional healing ointments and syrups and whatever else you need for the community. So now you're introducing that into the community project as well. What comes with that? Everyone that works in the community project, several people will work, or everyone will eventually make their way through this laboratory or this little pharmaceutical lab that manufactures these. And so what happens in all these community projects? They not only are community projects that are creating abundance for the community, but they also become a learning place. So there's a skills transfer. How many of you know how to make toothpaste? Very few. So once you've worked, exactly, well, there are some people, but majority of the people won't know how to make body lotions, how to make shampoo. Once you've worked there for a few weekends or a few 3-hour-a-week sessions, you'll know all this stuff. And you know what? Some of us are very smart. Some of us will say, what if we add this to this? Or what if we make a shampoo with this? Or if we create an enema with that? Or whatever the hell it is, you know? So people start bringing out their God-given talents, and their passions and their creativity starts to flow because there are no hurdles, there are no boundaries. And everybody starts to benefit from this. And your range of products starts to get bigger and bigger, and you can start packaging it for the neighboring communities. And guess what will happen? They'll start buying the stuff from you and start to collapse their economic model in their own towns. And so it spreads into every crack and crevice. Now, I used to think that that 3 hours a week was going to be necessary for the community projects, and then everyone would have to contribute like 3 hours a day, but not more, to whatever it is that their passion is for the community. Well, I no longer, as this evolves and you process it, I'm starting to realize that, hold on, I'm thinking ass about face about this stuff. So just imagine this situation. You got a community of 1,000 people. That's 3,000 hours a week. You will need quite a few community projects for all those people to do something in. Right? Otherwise, there's not enough space for all the people to do something. So eventually, it's not just the dairy, the bakery, the fishery, the sewage plant, the whatever else you think of. Everything the people do that will have a master teacher associated with it will become a community project. The shoemaker or the shoemakers, because there's not going to be one shoemaker in your community, there'll be several shoemakers, because you're not going to have factories. You're going to have everything in a contributionist society is custom made. Don't push it anymore, Jana, because it's going to start feeding back. And maybe pull it down a little bit. I'll speak close, thanks. And everything is custom made. You don't have shops with shelves on it with clothes waiting for someone to come and buy it. You got tailors that make clothes for the people of the community. They know your measurements, they know exactly what you like, what you look like, and they make it for you specifically. So everything is custom made and tailor-made. From the pottery and the crockery that we use to eat with, to the clothes we wear, to the shoes we wear, to the tables we have in our homes are tailor-made for your needs by the carpenters in your community. That's how it works. So the carpentry shop becomes a community project, right? Because you're making tables and furniture and window frames for the community. So sooner or later, whatever it is that you do, because it benefits the community, will essentially become a community project. I don't know, does it make sense to you what I'm saying? And more people will gravitate towards you, whether you're the sculptor or the bridge builder, and they'll gravitate towards you and want to participate in that for 3 hours a week or even 3 hours a day because they love doing what it is that you're doing. It gives them a thrill. And remember, there are as many diverse thrills that people get from doing things as there are people in the world. No two of us are the same. Everyone has a very specific, unique thrill that you get out of something that nobody gets as much thrill out of it as you do. And that's the beautiful thing about this diversity. And out of this, we get, only out of unity can you get infinite diversity. And this is a phenomenal thing that happens. Think about, let me go back to the human body and the trillions of cells that make up the diversity of this unified body that we find ourselves in. Trillions of cells, all diversified in ways that we can't even imagine right now, working together for united harmony. Only out of unity do you get infinite diversity. Some people think that in this contributionist Ubuntu society, everyone's going to be like clones of each other. And everyone's going to be the same and look the same and do the same thing. No, it's completely the opposite. Everyone will have absolute freedom to pursue their passions in life and let that be a contribution to their community. And this is the incredible flip of a switch in our minds that suddenly makes us realize this philosophy of abundance rather than philosophy of scarcity. New education system, I mentioned that already, so I'll go past this, where by the time we are 16 years old, we'll be able to do everything because we've done it from the age of 5 or maybe even earlier in small incremental steps, learning hands-on skills for life, so we know how to do everything and anything and understand it from a fundamental practical application because we've done it. We haven't just read about it. Once again, I'll remind you that master teachers will be appointed by the community. You're not going to become a master teacher by flashing a certificate, right? It's not going to work. So, well, I got a 4-year degree from Harvard and you better kiss my ass because none of you has got a 4-year degree and I've got a PhD. And you realize that that's not going to wash anymore. People, the community will appoint their master teachers. Everybody will know who the best baker is. And nobody's going to argue with the best baker. They're going to say, hey, can I come and learn from you? I'll say, you're an asshole. I've got a certificate. You might bake the best bread, but I'm the one with a certificate. That doesn't work anymore. So the best bridge builder, the best engineers, the best bakers will automatically become the masters and they'll be recognized by the community. There's no competition. And also, if you're aspiring to be the best baker, remember, there's no competition. You don't have to gain anything by not being the best baker or lose anything. So everyone starts to respect everyone else and not feel diminished because they're not as good as someone else. The whole idea of competition gets thrown out the window. It's that competition aspect that has divided us and separated us, that has been the evil in our lives, that has been the tool of holding us back and allowing only a few to rule the roost through competition. You know, think about it. At the moment, the whole world is being bought up by a few corporations. Eventually, everything in the world is going to be owned by one bloody corporation. That means no competition, no innovation. Everything is controlled by one corporation. That's what competition does. Competition turns us into clones and drones. Contributionism and cooperation provides us with infinite abundance and diversity of things that we do in our lives. And the other important thing is, because money is no hurdle to progress. What people will do in their communities is very different to what we do in our communities today. Millions of new activities will be opened up and freed up for people to do because they no longer expect a payment for it. They'll be doing it because they know it's good for their community. And they don't think, oh, if I do this, I won't be able to survive. You know what I mean? If I go around, I don't know, let's use something simple, sweeping people's homes because I love to sweep. And, some people get a rush out of sweeping. I know you may not believe this, but some people do. And if you get a rush out of sweeping and you love cleaning cars or cleaning things, people love it. Today they can't survive. They're not going to build an empire by cleaning other people's shit, right? So right now, that doesn't wash. But in a moneyless society, people will be doing weird things that today doesn't make any sense to us. Why would anybody be doing this? It doesn't make financial or economic sense. Exactly. It doesn't make economic sense. So everything gets turned upside down. And, there'll be people that, I don't know, carry messages of love to others because, just let your mind run free with this, people, because that's how beautiful it is. Completely open society with millions of things that we do that benefit the lives that we lead in our communities. That today is just, we're not even close to that kind of thinking. So remember that there are no jobs in a world without money. There's what I've started calling a labor of love. And that's what we all do. Whatever we're passionate about, what's best for our communities, what's best for our hearts and souls, that makes us wake up with a smile on our face. That's what it comes down to. And just to show you some of the community projects that we've started in Watervalboven, our little town, let's just go here. First of all, we got to start by recycling everything. And some of these recycling projects have been started already, but they're just not working because, again, the people are just trying to do it because it's a means to an end for them. They make a couple of bucks with which they go buy some food. So it doesn't feed into the whole contributionism philosophy that becomes a benefit to everyone in the community. So once we start structuring the recycling process and we actually get money in from it, that we can actually pay some of the people a little bit of money so they can really sustain themselves, while others do it because they participate in the community projects. The money we get buys the food to feed the kitchen. Oh, I think I got bloody wine flies around me. That's what it is. So once you got the recycling going, you get the money for the community kitchen, but people need to do something for the community to come and get their one meal a day. So now you got to start creating some of the other community projects. This is a bakery. This is our bakery. It's been standing empty now for about nearly a year now. And you can you see that the paving that's been lifted up there? Somebody stole the electrical cable from there. Yeah. So now there's no electricity. First, they closed because they couldn't afford to pay the electricity bill. And when it was shut down, somebody comes at night and digs up the bloody electrical wire and steals it. Why? Because they sell the copper for money. It's all about the money and survival and earning money to buy some food. So everything is touched by this money evil thing. This is the food growing gardens. These are the food growing gardens with state-of-the-art technology. It was set up. An equivalent of $7 million was spent on this. And this is what it looks like. Deserted, burnt down, gutted. State-of-the-art, food growing, hydroponics, and more. It used to be an attraction for passers-by from the highway to come down. 10,000 cars come past our little town every day on the highway. And it's a 1 mile turnoff, 1 mile down into the valley, into the mountains, and there our little town is. That people used to come down there to eat strawberries and cream. This was a strawberry field that grew huge amounts of strawberries. It's all dilapidated, vandalized, and burned down. Why is it burned down? Because if you're not working the land, the grass grows, and when the winter fires come, because we have winter fires, it burns everything down. So that's what happens. So we got to reactivate the food growing thing. Now, this was run by some ladies that I spoke to, and this is what the municipality did. So the food growing thing got funded, and these ladies were working there and taking all the food and selling it at the market. Again, no thought process. It's like, okay, let's grow some food and sell the stuff and see if we can raise some money. It's just no big vision, right? And this is the problem. So they were selling the food that they were growing, and then the municipality would send a driver to collect all the money that they were selling it for. So they were basically working as slaves for free, and then weren't even allowed to keep any of the money from the produce that they grew. It's just spectacular theft and abuse of the people. This is the town hall. That was a 5-star installation. It's a residue from the apartheid regime. Everything worked perfectly. This takes about probably close to 1,000 people, this hall. And a beautiful stage with stage lights for performances. All the things that you would get for running a light show, and PA system, fully air-conditioned, upstairs projector room that used to project in the 80s still movies, on film, and completely vandalized. The doors have been ripped off. The lights have been ripped off. Everything has been ripped out. Basins and toilets have been stolen. Doors have been taken off their hinges. Completely vandalized, left to be vandalized by the municipality. This installation belongs to the people, and the municipality of the people allowed it to be vandalized. So they've committed a crime against the people. And this is just a group of kids that are a really talented group of singers that this hall should be available for. So we started fixing this hall up. I've just been putting my own money into it until I ran out of money. And the first thing we needed to do is secure the place. There's no electricity. All the cables have been stolen and ripped out. And so first we need to secure the place and make sure that the vandals can't get in there at night and take more stuff out. So we had to first put security gates on all the doors. And once we did that, we started cleaning it out and all that. And eventually I had the electricity guy in town that works for the electrical company who's really working with us. He came and reconnected the electricity. So we had at least one plug inside so we could work with more implements and put some lights in. And they held their first community event there about 3 weeks after I left home, when Louise and I were in Australia. So the community events, and these are some of the kids that are helping me clean it out and fix it up. And so they're now running it as a community hall for the community. And they're showing movies, or they're not doing it, they're waiting for us to come back so we can really activate it. Movies, documentaries, open mic, talent competitions, place for bands to come and play on the weekends, local bands also, have musical, theatrical productions from the schools, and just really use it as a community hall. In the mornings, we will use it as a literacy center to teach the kids literacy and some of the elderly people. Remember, we got about a 50% illiteracy rate there. So these are some of the practical things. So this needs to become a community hall for the community. Where you live, you've got your own problems, your own set of things that you need to readdress and restructure. I'm sharing with you some of the challenges that we face and see how it compares with yours. So this is what the health clinic looks like today. This was an actual clinic that operated and looked after the people in the township. And this has been completely vandalized. So our efforts are now to reactivate the clinic, fix it up, and actually use some of the healing modalities that we accumulated on the strip to put in there. Clearly, this is going to take a bit of money to fix up, as you can see. So when we go out and tell people we're raising money for these various community projects, at least now you have an idea of what it is we're raising money for. That it's not money for a brand new BMW for me, or a new house, a castle on the mountain, because I'm not interested in that stuff. We're interested in fixing these things. And then some people say to us, oh, why are you raising money? Why don't you practice what you preach? Why don't you work without money? I say, no, you haven't followed the train of thought here. We're going to need money to fix this so we can operate it without the money. Unfortunately, this is the state of affairs. That's what it comes down to. Our sporting facilities, all the sporting facilities are completely run down and vandalized. It is unbelievable. These were 5-star, fully functional, from tennis to netball to cricket, rugby, soccer. Everything was, apparently, before I arrived there, 10 years ago, the soccer field was perfect. It had sprinklers that used to pop up and water the lawn on the soccer field. Now it's a dust bowl. There, you can see the kids sitting in the bloody dust bowl, what it looks like today. Well, it's the ANC government that took over from the apartheid government. One fascist regime took over from another fascist regime. And they have 20 years of freedom. This is what they call it. We brought freedom to our people. You ask most people in South Africa, how free do you feel? They point you to this. They say, we remember when these were beautiful green fields 15 years ago. Look at them now. No. The apartheid government provided 5-star facilities. Yes, it was mostly for the white people. But when the ANC government took over, instead of taking it and presenting it, maintaining it for everyone, they let it go to ruin. And that's by design. Remember, it is very clearly by design. Because you can't have people being happy and having everything they need. You're dealing with the most prosperous country in the world. In 1966, South Africa was, in Time magazine, called the most prosperous country in the world, the best place to live. And this is what happened since 1966 to 1990, and everything just went completely upside down. You know, I grew up on the gold mines in South Africa, and possibly this is where I started getting the idea of a free society. If you worked on the gold mines, everything was provided for free. Your house was for free, your electricity was free, your water was free, your garden service was for free, your car and petrol was for free, your sporting facilities, 5-star sporting facilities, from golf to tennis to squash, anything you can imagine, swimming was for free. At Christmas, you went and chose your Christmas present that was provided for free by the mine. On Sundays, you went to have a free lunch at the mine club. You're starting to see, as long as you worked for the gold mine, everything was for free. So when I left school and I went to Johannesburg, and I suddenly saw people paying to play golf and paying to this, and I was like, Jesus, this is, we had everything for free when I was growing up, you know. And I guess this is possibly entrenched in my subconscious, that it's possible to get everything for free as long as you just work together. Just shift the goalposts a little bit. So this is what the grandstand, on the left is the rugby grandstand and the showers. This is what it looks like today, vandalized. And on the right, this is the cricket field and the toilets of the cricket field. 15 years of ANC vandalism. It is spectacular that the liberators, Nelson Mandela's ANC, this is what it's come down to. So if you ever hear about how beautiful and amazing the ANC is, you've got to realize that what you hear in the media is not true. It's always the opposite. This is a fish farm that is a 5-star, state-of-the-art installation, standing empty, completely vandalized. This fish is one of the key community projects we intend to reactivate. This is going to take a little bit of money, but unfortunately, we have to do that. This fish farm can breed 1 million fish per month. It can feed the entire bloody town and export fish to the whole province. One of those big warehouses, as you can see on the left, those are huge. You don't really get a sense of how big those warehouses are. It's twice the size of this hall here, literally twice the size. We want to convert one of those into a mushroom farm, growing mushrooms in there. We'll grow enough mushrooms to feed our entire town and export mushrooms to the entire province, bringing huge amounts of money into the coffers, into the community fund, with which we can create more community projects, fix the streets, fix the sporting facilities, do all that stuff. So you start getting the picture. Only in unity we thrive and anything is possible, and out of unity comes infinite diversity. And this is spectacular. It's that simple. So what we call the Ubuntu village is really like the Ubuntu head office, which is our little place. It's about 2 acres on the river, the Elands River. And that's where we have our Ubuntu head office. That's where we run the tours to the ruins. And I have my little museum there. We have space for our volunteers that come from all over the world to work with us there and start implementing the community projects. So that's where we're managing and implementing it from our little Ubuntu village head office. The town is what we call the Ubuntu community, that we are slowly but surely starting to implement these. We've also already started putting out the word for people to nominate the Council of Elders. By the time we get back, we trust that we will already have everyone nominating their special person for the Council of Elders that become the representative voice for the people of the town. And this brings us to the South African elections. Just in case you didn't know, this is real. And on the 7th of May, the Ubuntu Party participated in the South African elections. There you can see me very proudly standing in front of those big boards, waiting for the counts to start coming in. We entered the elections with about 1 million followers. We know this from SMS responses and people subscribing and saying they love what we do and they support us. 1 million followers into the elections. So we were very confident we were going to get at least 40,000 or 45,000 votes for one seat. In fact, we were confident we were going to get between 200 and 300,000 votes for at least 5 or 6 seats. That was not the case. We ended up with 8,230 votes out of 1 million followers. And that became very, very clear that the elections are far from free and fair, that they're totally and utterly controlled and manipulated, and that the outcome is determined well before the elections even start. They know exactly who's going to win what. In fact, it was 3 days before the counts ended, and one of the senior IEC officials came to us. The IEC is the Independent Electoral Commission. They run the elections. They're completely and utterly controlled by the South African Reserve Bank, right? Because they pay them. And we were told, you know, you're going to end up with about 8,500 votes. So, and I looked at them and I said, really? And where did you get that from? And I didn't think much of it. And they were right. We did. Because they already knew it was manipulated that way. We were told by several people that worked as observers in many of the polling stations. There were about 20,000 voting stations throughout South Africa. And many of those we heard from people saying we saw hundreds, if not thousands, of Ubuntu votes being destroyed and discarded. So this is what happens. So what happens at the voting station and what is counted and then what is relayed to this central, to those screens, are very different sets of numbers. And there is no way to follow up and check on the details. And even if you can, they say, okay, well, we'll have to conduct an investigation after the elections. And that's it. This is how disgusting it is. And this is where you've got to realize that your vote is your secret. It's a secret vote. Therein lies the trap. If it's a secret vote, you can manipulate it, you can lie, you can discard votes, replace them with other votes. Nobody knows who voted for who. You can't go online and check your vote and say, where's the vote next to my name? I voted for the ANC, or I voted for Ubuntu. Say, okay, my name is still there. That way, you'll have very strict and manageable elections. And everybody can see that it's true and fair. With a secret vote, what a great lie and con to allow a platform for cheating. So this is why when we ask people to vote for or nominate their members for the Council of Elders, we tell them, put your name down. Michael Tellinger nominates James Gilliland for the Council of Elders. So everybody knows Michael nominated James. And it's not a secret. I should be proud of it because I see James as the most trustworthy, honorable person in our society, and I think he should be on the Council of Elders. So everybody, yeah. Yeah, I'm never going to nominate James, of course, but but you get the picture. It's very easy to keep control of this stuff, but we've been so lied to and so manipulated and so confused that why get into politics? This is a very important question, and I think I started off with this before we got going here, is because some of the statements we make in this process are so hectic, they're so radical that they could be seen as treason, and I could go to jail. And they're looking for any kind of excuse to throw people like us in jail, right? And I think it's a double-edged sword there. But so at this stage, the moment you put on a political platform, you can say anything. It's your right to canvass your political manifesto to the people of the United States or Germany or Canada. Say, right, we as the Ubuntu Party want to make all nuns parliamentary members. As crazy as that sounds, right? Every nun should automatically be in parliament. This is our manifesto. Some people think you're crazy, but they can't tell you, well, you can't put that in your manifesto. You can put anything you bloody want in your manifesto. So we can say, we're going to close down the Reserve Bank and replace it with a People's Bank that issues money for the people, by the people, tax-free and interest-free. And that was our manifesto for the South African elections. Now, if you say that outside of the political arena and you go march on Parliament and say, we're going to close down the Reserve Bank, they'll see you as a bunch of radical rebels, undermining and terrorists, undermining the well-being and the financial stability of the United States. They'll arrest all of you and put you in jail or in FEMA camps that nobody ever knows that you even existed. So the political platform at this time and this point in our current existence is critical as a form of protection. Not only that, what has happened because of the fact that we were in the elections, the fact that we didn't get in doesn't matter. But the whole world took notice of what we did. And they realized, oh my God, these guys did it. They did it in South Africa. We can do it in our country. And that's what's happening. Ubuntu parties are being formed in the USA, in Canada, in Germany, in Australia, all over the world. And I think for the first time ever, as far as I know, it's possible that in the next 4 to 5 years, as the election years come and go, we might find several Ubuntu parties in governments and parliaments around the world, carrying forth the same level of unity consciousness and the message that started in the elections in South Africa. And it is the single message of unity consciousness that does not deviate from the truth, that only works if it's good for everyone. Because if it's not good for everyone, it's not good at all. And that's a Cherokee saying that we've actually adopted for the Ubuntu movement in South Africa. So the Ubuntu Manifesto believes that the country belongs to its people, and that the mineral wealth and the energy belongs to the people, and that the government is appointed as the servant of the people, by the people, to serve the needs of the people on every level of our human endeavor. And based on these simple principles, we plan to do the following. And this is what we put out as a press release to the media in South Africa. And we had 7 or 8 points. Restructure the entire banking system to serve the people and not enslave the people. Create a people's bank to create money for the people, by the people, tax-free and interest-free, with 100% employment, and stop the financial enslavement of our people, of the Reserve Bank. You're going to understand why this is it. Although Ubuntu and the contributionism talks about a world without money, we're not going to get from zero to hero. There are going to have to be a few transitional steps. The first and most important step to get there in any Western economy is to close down the private central bank and replace it with a people's bank. Why is that so important? It's because a people's bank issues money for the people, by the people, and therefore it is not there for gain or profit. Because remember, the People's Bank creates money out of thin air, just like the Rothschild banks create money out of thin air. So now we, the people, create the money out of thin air for the benefit of the people, and therefore money is available for every community, for every project, for everything that the people of the country want to do. You go to the bank, you say, we need to build a bridge in our town and you will get the money. So what will happen is, as the people start getting used, and first of all, because this happens, there's 100% employment. Everyone has a job. And there's a total restructuring, because new industries will spring up with a People's Bank that previously would not be funded by private banks. So suddenly you'll have industries and things going on everywhere, and everyone will have a job, and most likely have a job doing what they like, because they will be able to go to a small little town of their choice, escape the prison of the metropolitan jungles, escape to a small town or a village that they love to be in, and do something that they really love to do, because there will be something for them to do because the money is available through the people's bank. So what happens next is people start to realize, hold on, if money is always available for everything we want to do, we're about to build a bridge over there, and we're going to go to the bank to get the money for the bridge. We know we're going to get the money, so why do we even go to the bank? Let's just build the bridge. And very soon people realize, aha, the money is a scam. We don't actually need the money. We just need each other and the master teachers and the master engineers to do what the hell we need to do. And very quickly you start turning over that idea that we need money in our lives. If money is always available for everything all the time, but we work together, there's a trick to this, that you realize that with that will come certain responsibilities. And I've started to say, and sometimes people misunderstand this, with absolute freedom comes absolute control. And they go, oh, fascist state. No, absolute control of your own desires, of your own consciousness, of your own need to hoard stuff and abuse others. Absolute control over your own being. With absolute freedom comes absolute control. So we start acting responsible towards each other. That's what I mean by that. And the other interesting thing is you'll find in the book, I refer to the system not only as a self-correcting system, but it's not a system driven by majority rule. It's a system driven by minority rule principles. And this really confuses people. And I must admit, I do it mischievously because I knew that it'll really get people, what do you mean minority rule? I said, well, the majority rule principle is really a bullying tactic. There's 51 of us, 49 of you, it'll be our way or the highway. And if you don't like it our way, we're going to kick your ass and put you in jail. That's what pretty much democracy is. Majority rules. There's one more of us, and that's it. It'll be our way. Well, that's not a solution to the problem, is it? Never has been and never will be. What a moneyless society does, every minority, no matter what kind of minority, whether it's stamp collectors or people that care for chickens, to guys that make weather balloons, to whatever. Imagine any kind of weird minority. Every minority's needs will be taken care of. Not just taken care of, but taken care of to the best possible ability with no restrictions because of funding. So they'll have the best equipment, the best tools, the best technology to do whatever that minority group is doing because it benefits the community and the greater lifestyle of everybody. So it in essence becomes a minority rule philosophy where all minorities are taken care of to the highest degree and not controlled by one large majority. And this is a huge and important thing. So the next point was, let our scientists and inventors deliver renewable sources of free energy for every South African. In this case, would be for every United States. What do you call? Because you can't say American, because America is a big place, right? Yes, but you don't want to say U.S. citizen, because you don't want to be a citizen anymore, right? You want to be a living, breathing human being. So we need to come up with a different name for people that live in the United States. Is there a name that exists that I'm not aware of? Okay, the United States, people of the United States of America, I think, probably closer to anything. So now you can realize that when you start talking about providing an alternative source of free electricity, that doesn't go down well with the authorities. So again, you'll be seen to be undermining the economic stability of a nation when you say stuff like this. But on a political platform, that's what you want to give the people. Support our traditional healers and research scientists in finding alternative cures for all disease and prevent the drug cartels from hiding such cures from the people. So now you've gone from money to energy to drug cartels. We're touching all the control points, right? And then support the farmers to escape the grips on Monsanto and grow organic food and plant gardens so nobody goes hungry. All research facilities will be funded for and provided for so that farmers get the benefit of the most advanced technology in agricultural research. Decentralize the government so people can govern themselves, and that's a question I've been asked many times. So let's assume miracle happens, you become president. What do? Dissolve the government. Break it down. Let people govern themselves in their own communities. I know some people go into shock when you say this to them. But it's a very simple process that could happen very, very quickly. Once you've got the communities looking after themselves, why would you want any kind of central draconian body interfering in people's activities? Because everything gets readjusted. Communities start to interact with each other, helping and supporting each other. This is why the 3 times principle becomes very important, why communities create 3 times as much stuff that they need. And finally, restructure the judiciary and the legal system to be written by the people, the laws to be written by the people, for the people, unlike the unjust legal system we face in our courts today, which holds the rights of corporations above those of living, breathing human beings. And just to show you, this was the TV commercial that was flighted in South Africa. I shot this TV commercial while I was in Munich, in Germany. And this is the one that we sent via, and it was the wrong format, and then they didn't want us to flight it. And luckily, they had to re-edit it so that we could flight it in South Africa, and it wasn't contravening the Electoral Act. Did you know that the South African Reserve Bank is a private company controlled from Switzerland, and that our banks create money out of thin air? Our government knows this, but they're not telling us. This is Michael Tellinger, founder of the Ubuntu Party, and I'd like to remind you that South Africa belongs to its people. It does not belong to the government or any other private corporation. The government should always be the servant of the people to deliver on the needs of the people and not enslave its people. But they've sold our roads and our minerals to private foreign companies and enslaved us in debt for life. The Ubuntu Party will create a people's bank that creates money for the people, by the people, tax-free and interest-free, to free us from economic slavery, creating huge public works in the process and 100% employment. Let us return the country to its people. Vote Ubuntu Party for a people's bank. Money for the people, by the people. Vote Ubuntu. It's a very simple and strong message, and we focused on the people's bank as our single-minded message in the campaign, although there are a lot of other issues. You've got to have a single focused approach, and that's what we chose. And it caused havoc. I mean, I was on 2 radio shows, out of thousands of radio interviews on many radio shows. I only appeared on 2 radio shows, one for about half an hour, one for an hour, and another one for about 5 minutes. And that was it. What I can tell you is it was quite spectacular, is 100% of the callers that called in, this was unheard of, and you could see it in the voices of the hosts, the presenters. They didn't know how to deal with this. 100% of the callers were in support of what I was saying. Not just the callers, but the SMSs, the cell phone messages, the tweets, and the emails that they were getting in studio. 100% support for what I was saying live on radio. This shook up the hosts so much that some of them tried to, play the devil's advocate to say, well, you're getting all the support from the people, so, and then one guy phoned in and he said, I tried to join you or this on the internet and it didn't work and all that, and I sent you an email, you didn't get back to me, and I said, you know what, this thing has grown so quickly, we're a tiny little party, we can't deal with this, the rapid growth. And then the host said, well, if you can't deal with this rapid growth, how are you going to run a country? And I went, hold on, there's a big difference between, running an election campaign as a tiny party with no funding and running a country with all the bloody money in the world. So don't confuse the issue here. Oh, okay. And the guy said, I like that answer, I'll vote for you. It was just as simple as that. And so it was incredible. It was complete. I couldn't believe it myself. And 95% of the callers that were phoning in were black South Africans, not whiteys. Were black South Africans. So we had a huge black following. 8,000 votes? I don't think so. So that's exactly what I'm saying. This is why it is so critical to say you're an unlawful organization that has forced your way into the legislation, the constitution of the country, that has taken the right to print the money for the people, to dictate the economic policy for the country, and force it on the people. They don't want it. You're forcing it on the people. And guess what? Remember that the Fed is outside of the legal system. You don't have it. You can't sue the Fed. It doesn't work. They are untouchable. They are above the law. They can do what they want. The same thing with the South African Reserve Bank. In the Bank Act, South African Reserve Bank is protected by a secrecy clause that they will not, you may not demand certain papers or deliver certain documents in the court, even in the Constitutional Court. It's insane. So, well, this is why the political thing is so critical. So what is happening now, as a result of our presence in the national elections, a lot of people in the smaller communities love what we're doing, and they resonate with the Ubuntu philosophy. And we have, in 2016, we have the local elections, the provincial and the local elections for different towns. So we're going to be very active in some of those. All we need to do is win majority in one town, and it's all over. Because once you become the majority in an election, you become the mayor, and you get the money, the budget to do with your town what you please, right? So you realize how powerful this situation can be. Imagine if we win 100 towns in South Africa as a majority out of 20,000. Think about this prospect, and it's very, very possible. The same can happen in the USA, anywhere else. So this launching of the political front is critical, because now you're injecting the virus of consciousness into the political beast. And from the inside, you can cause as much havoc as you want. There's very little they can do to you, because you're in control. This was just a little PR teaser campaign that we did for the elections. Ed?
Yeah, I was going to say that I really understand what you're trying to do in that, but there's so much dishonesty. They're basically screwing you at every point.
Of course.
And the way you're going to get support through the people that you're communicating with that know you're telling the truth, instead of trying to be a bank and they have all these rules for it, become a money club. And anybody who wants to can join the money club if they're citizens. And they can have accounts with so much money in that. And it's not a bank. They get credits for it if they want to borrow.
Ed, what you're telling me is in my book. It's already in the book. There are various, yeah, it's all in the book, because I'm just sharing a fraction of the information with you. There's so much that can and possibly will happen. So we need to look at all the possible scenarios and see how we're going to adjust it. For example, some contributionism communities and towns may have to create their own little currency, temporary currency, because some people on the inside of the town might misuse it. They say, oh, I'll just buy up all the stuff because I get it for nothing, just buy it all and then take it to the neighboring town and sell it for a huge profit. There could be people trying to do all these weird things that are not on the same consciousness level, not playing the game. So the community, and that's why the Council of Elders is so critical. So the Council of Elders can come down and shut this down, say, sorry, buddy, what are you doing? And in Africa, there's still a huge amount of respect for the elders, like there is among the Native Americans and Canadians. There's a lot of respect for the elders. I know many of them have been corrupted here like they have been there, but it is still a savable situation. So,
what about security? I mean, you were showing, where everything was vandalized. Once you put all this money into repairing it, you must have to have a lot of security people to make sure that you're not going to have a bunch of people.
Okay, so let's just take that backwards a little bit. Remember, we're working in a community where there's 80% unemployment, lots of hunger. As soon as this starts to work and it's bringing in money that buys the food to feed the people, who do you think are going to become the security force for the venues and for the sports fields? The guys that play the soccer. They're not going to let anyone touch their bloody sports fields. The guys that operate the community center. No one's going to touch that center and the people themselves, whose grannies and grandfathers get fed from the money that comes from that community center that buys the food for the food kitchen. The people themselves become the security force because it is now a community project. Everything changes. Everything flips upside down. You don't need to hire any security forces in. the people themselves start to protect their own, because it's now their own benefit. It no longer belongs to them. It now belongs to us. I have no idea what the banksters are going to do once this starts to go. What I can tell you, quite frankly, I think they know their game is up. They're just waiting for when it's up, and they know sooner or later. And the same thing, the police force. The guys that are in the police, they're brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers of the people that are living in the community that are starving. So if the municipality or the government asks the police to go and act against their cousins and their brothers and their mothers because they illegally feeding the people, what do you think the police are going to do? So screw you. I'm not going to go and arrest my granny because she's taking food from, it's got to be a community project where everybody feels that they benefit. And the banksters are going to do weird and wonderful things, and God bless them for it, What we need to realize here, that we're not going against the banksters, and this is, maybe I should have said this a long time ago. We're not, and at many of these events that we do now, Louise and I have consciously said, bankers welcome, Come and raise your consciousness. Come and learn what it is that your industry has done to the global community. And many bankers are waking up every day and say, I can't do this anymore. But they're trapped. It's their job. Their kids are at school. They can't just give up. They're equally trapped like everybody else. And I can tell you that even the CEOs of banks don't sometimes know what's going on. And I know this because I spent a whole afternoon watching rugby in a sports bar with the CEO of one of the 4 big banks in South Africa, Nedbank, Monster Bank, and Mike Brown. And I realized that Mike has got no bloody idea how any of this works. And I felt a deep sense of sadness for him. He was the CEO of one of these, KPMG or Anderson, whatever, one of these big finance companies, and they brought him as a CEO from there to be the CEO of the bank. He's got no idea how money is created. They said, he's a dumb schmuck, we'll just bring him in, and he can be the patsy, he can be the fall guy. We'll just tell him what to do, and he'll do this, and commit crimes against humanity because he's too bloody stupid to know the difference. When I started asking him certain questions about the answers he was giving me, made it very clear to me he doesn't really know how it works. And I didn't want to push the issue. I said, let's just watch some rugby. And then we gave him a copy of my book. I don't know what happened after that. I haven't seen him since then. So this is just to show you just a little bit of, good feel, PR for the running up to the elections.
Everyone is talking about this beautiful African life philosophy called Ubuntu, but very few people are actually doing anything about it. This is Michael Tellinger, and I want to tell you how the Ubuntu Party will actually make this beautiful life philosophy possible for every single South African. So I would like to remind you that we, the people, appoint the government to act as our servants, to do the best for the people all the time. But our government has failed us dramatically on every level and actually turned the people into the servant of the government. And above all, our economy has been hijacked by international banksters who've been granted complete freedom to financially cripple every South African, plunging us into a life of debt. Pay attention to this. The South African Reserve Bank does not belong to the government. It does not belong to the people. It's a private company that has been given the right to issue the money for the South African people and to dictate the financial policy to the government and in turn to the people of the country. And under the protection of the South African Reserve Bank, all our banks are being given complete freedom to create money out of thin air that they then lend to unsuspecting people at compounded interest, turning all of us into debt slaves for the rest of our lives. So based on these facts, the Ubuntu Party proposes to do the following: to restructure the entire banking system to serve the people and not to enslave the people, to establish a people's bank instead of the South African Reserve Bank that creates money for the people, by the people, and in this case the money will be tax-free and interest-free with 100% employment as a result, and stop the financial enslavement. We need to support our scientists and inventors to deliver a renewable source of free or almost free energy for every South African. We need to support our traditional healers and the research scientists to go back to basics and find alternative cures for all disease to prevent the drug cartels from hiding such cures from the people, because we know that cures for diseases have been found and can be released to the people. We need to support our farmers at every level to grow organic food and move away from genetically modified organisms and get rid of giants like Monsanto who are poisoning our farms and poisoning our lands and poisoning our foods. We need to plant food gardens across the nation so that no South African ever goes hungry again. We need to decentralize the government so that people can govern themselves in their own communities, taking care of their own needs immediately, supported by the People's Bank. Because once we have a People's Bank, all the needs of the people, wherever they may live, will be provided for. And therefore, there will be no worry about job security because jobs will be created for whatever needs to be done, supported by the People's Bank. And finally, we need to restructure the judiciary and the legal system completely to be written by the people, for the people, unlike the unjust legal system we face in our courts today, which holds the rights of corporations above the rights of living, breathing human beings. United we stand. That's what Ubuntu is all about.
For those that think that this is a pipe dream, I need to tell you that this has been done many times in the past with great success, and this is exactly what we want to recreate in South Africa, to bring this relief to the people that so desperately need it.
Viva unity, viva abundance for all, viva Ubuntu. Hope to see you on the 7th of May.
Central banks, private people's banks in the USA. The whole War of Independence is all about the Bank of England trying to impose themselves on the United States of America, and having done so several times. There was a state bank several times that operated in the USA. Just read my book. It's all in the book. I forget the dates now, but it's remember, these banking cartels, these banking families are very powerful political beasts. They work their way into the political arena, and that's how they take control of countries. Read the Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins to get a clearer picture of how this is orchestrated. And it's deception and spectacular abuse of humanity on every possible level. Canada had a People's Bank, Australia had a People's Bank, and every time that happened, the country was prosperous. What Hitler did in the decade running up to the war, was pretty much taking control of the financial money supply. And Germany was the most prosperous country in Europe. That, if anything, was the main reason for going, hold on, whoa, what's going on here? If Germany is the most prosperous country, they're going to take over the whole bloody continent, and they're going to kick out the central bankers. We can't have this happen. And you know what happened. At this stage, we have members in more than 200 countries. At this stage, it's about 215 countries. But that doesn't mean that we are rolling in money. There's very little funding coming into the Ubuntu movement. Pretty much all the funding comes from events like this, that then I then go back home and fund a few more things, and we run out of money. So the book sales of the Ubuntu book and the talks and presentations that we do and a few donations that we get every month from people around the world is keeping us going. But with that, we're already moving mountains. If we can keep increasing that to a stable level, literally in that little town of ours where we are attempting to create the first model contributionist community, we can literally move mountains and create miracles. And this is what I believe is right here at our fingertips, very, very close. And so on this note, just like to say, when you leave here today, be a seed of consciousness. Don't just forget about what we discussed here and what you heard. Go out and tell people. What we're encouraging people everywhere around the world is, if you resonate with us, go back home and start a Facebook page, whether it's Ubuntu Orange County, or Ubuntu Los Angeles, or Ubuntu San Francisco, Ubuntu Trout Lake, whatever. Start the Facebook page. Go online to the Ubuntu Party website and join us there, so we know you're on the database, and then send us administrative ability so we can post stuff on your Facebook page. So from the Ubuntu head office, we can post to thousands of Facebook pages around the world information and how this is growing. Now, once the Ubuntu parties are established in Canada, I know that's probably the front runner of all of them, all the material has been written. You don't have to rewrite anything. So the guys in Canada just take everything we use in South Africa and put the Canadian logo on it, and away they go. Everything's been done. Same thing in Germany and so forth. So just go away and think about this, how this resonates with you, and start doing this and spreading it, and very quickly. 4 years from now, we could have the first transnational, transborder, multinational, global movement of unity consciousness that had infiltrated the political beast. And that's never happened before. And at this stage, I think it's unavoidable, quite frankly. So now I think let's just open the floor to fears, questions.
You made a lot of good points in your presentation. I would take issue with one, and that is that one of the huge problems we have with the financial system in this country is that the Federal Reserve is creating money out of thin air. It's nothing more than a form of electronic counterfeiting. And the problem with that is you're increasing the money supply without any correlation to goods and services produced. That is the engine of inflation, and that is what causes prices to rise and is essentially how citizens are being robbed. So creating money out of thin air isn't an answer no matter who does it, because if it was that simple and you created a people's bank, why not just give everybody $1 million or $2 million and declare everybody rich? Because all that additional money is in the system and the prices of everything will just go up. That's the problem. The way you started describing your operation was by bootstrapping, starting one operation, getting in some money and expanding it. That would be a legitimate way of doing it. So I think, creating it out of thin air is not an answer.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you on that because totally have to disagree with you on that because the evidence of people's banks are there in history. Go look them up and see how prosperous the countries were when they had people's banks and how they operated. It's very simple. It's historic fact. The moment the countries became prosperous, these private banking families came down on those governments. They infiltrated the governments. They turned them upside down and imposed their own money supply. What you're saying, I know, is what's drummed into our heads through the economic policies and the financial economic books. But they are all BS. They all make the stuff up. Who creates the inflation? The banks create the inflation.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
And the creation.
So if the bank issues money tax-free and interest-free, there is no inflation.
Yes, there is, because you're increasing the money supply. And it creates an imbalance. And it reduces the value. That's why our prices are all going up. I mean, it's like in this country, the price of food and energy has quadrupled since the turn of the century. Yeah. And even though no, it's true. And
I hear what you're saying, but I have to disagree with you. And we can speak about this for another week.
We could, but I feel strongly about that's not a valid way to go about it.
Everything that we shared with the Ubuntu movement in the media in South Africa actually showed that argument that you raised. And believe me, you're not the first person. I've had that argument 1,000 times, probably 10,000 times, especially running up to the elections. And if you go and study this, you'll see that it's an orchestrated and manipulated situation that is imposed on humanity. All of this is synthetically created. All the stuff that's going on all the stock markets of the world is all synthetically manipulated and created. It's a freaking game. It's like a game that they control from some invisible room in the city of London that they decide, oh, we're going to do this. Oh, that country is looking troublesome. Let's move this market like this. It's a game. All of this. The sooner you remove it, the sooner you remove all the problems. I'm not saying that a People's Bank is the long-term solution. I'm saying it's an interim phase. It's only going to last for a very short time until the people realize that the whole money thing is a scam. And it's been done very successfully. Okay. I mentioned to you before, in Canada, Australia, and the United States. No, not now. But there is no People's Bank in the USA. It's a private bank. Yeah, and this is why you have problems. But when the money was treated differently, even when the greenback was issued, everything changed. All the debts were paid off. Everything was settled. So you are talking from the way that we have been poisoned and taught about economics and economic structure and financial policies. Those are the tools and the weapons of the financial system. You got to internalize that. Those are all lies. Yeah.
It's impoverishing the people,
I,
the way it's operating. You can't just create wealth out of thin air.
yeah. Okay. Let's. What I suggest to you, if you want to learn more about this, please go and find out about it. There's a lot of information about this, and if, yeah, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have, and I'm not trying to undermine your knowledge. What I'm telling you is we got to get out of the system, and this is one of the ways. Yeah. Go for it.
I'm curious how you might see this meshing with the Thrive movement and Zeitgeist,
Zeitgeist, I'm not
A-
sure.
a resource-based economy, and
Yeah, that's the Venus Project. Yeah,
well,
Yeah.
yeah, Peter Joseph has kind of
yeah.
slightly,
Well, I sort of touched upon them earlier. Both Zeitgeist and Venus Project have been in touch with me, and we've exchanged emails and so forth. And I'm not sure how we can work with them. We are open to working with everybody.
it just seems
Yeah.
so, compatible.
What I said earlier is that like the Venus Project, and I love Jacques Fresco and what he's done, and God bless him for it because he's brilliant, and he's been doing this for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I have a little problem where we start putting technology ahead of people.
I do too.
And that's this is what I say: people first. People first. Everything comes because people do. We do everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
do
we'll
too.
design the technology that we need for our communities. Let's not create the technology so we can create the communities. That's us about face.
Yeah, I just wondered what you thought about
And
that.
Thrive movement is an interesting one. You know, I got to know Foster Gamble reasonably well. I've spent a few days with him in Boulder, Colorado last year. And Foster feels very uncomfortable with a world without money.
Yeah, I bet he would.
He does. He's not very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You know, he sort of, I think maybe he was humoring me or something. He said, look, eventually I guess it'll get there, but it's going to take a long time. And I said, it doesn't have to take a long time. It just we have to start this process. And once people wake up to this, it can happen within a few years. You know, revolutions happen very quickly when people cotton onto something. And this is a revolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
So it can happen as quickly as the French Revolution happened and the Bolshevik Revolution, virtually overnight.
Concerning central banks versus people's banks, and this may piss a lot of people off here, but Hitler,
Yeah.
when he took power, he kicked out the Rothschild central banks. He kicked out the Zionist, Jewish-controlled central banks. And he established a people's bank. In a few short years, he took his country from the worst economy in Europe to one of the, probably the strongest economy in the world, practically overnight. He was the grandfather of banking activism. He did something about it. He kicked out the central banks. He did what very few people are willing to do. That's why the powers that be, the United States, banded together with the Zionist banks and the English crown, et cetera, got together and said, we've got to stop this guy. Just like you said, he's going to take over everything. He's going to completely undermine everything. And he's been demonized. It's like you said yesterday, in certain places, if you say anything negative about the Holocaust, you get thrown in jail. All right, well, he's been demonized and distorted through the public education system and the media and Hollywood, et cetera, and we know who controls these things. This is rewriting history right under your nose. It's this whole taboo about about anti-Semitism and what really happened in Germany during World War II is starting to break down. It's starting to break down with the rise in consciousness.
Well, I can tell you that I was in Germany on tour now, and the German people are pissed off. They're really unhappy at the raw deal they got after the war.
Right.
They're like made to be the bad guys.
They're
of
made
the
to be the
world.
bad guys when they were the ones kicking out the bad guys. And it's completely the opposite. What
also-
has been spoon-fed and shoved down the throats of people for generation is completely the opposite of the actual truth.
Also, what's important to note that, as far as I've been told by several Germans, is that Germany is not a free country. It is occupied territory by NATO since the end of the Second World War. It has never been reinstituted as a free sovereign nation. It remains occupied territory under NATO control. This is why Germany has got the most military bases outside of the United States. It's in Germany.
Well, first off, I want to say you've been a huge inspiration for me over the last few years. I met you here when you were here in 2011, I believe, and followed your work in Ubuntuism. And I, frankly, went through a lot of things to try and figure out how I can be effective in turning over the powers that were. And so your work was one of the ones that I really gravitated to, because the number one message for me was a sense of sharing and making a world that your grandchildren can live in.
Yeah.
So having said all that, I just want to say
Thank you.
thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
And then my question would be, have you looked into using any sort of cryptocurrencies as a way to get your money out of the system?
We've looked at a lot of things. I've analyzed a lot of things. Just for example, we've got a whole plan that I want to start implementing with the farmers in South Africa, and I think that plan can be implemented very successfully with the farmers in the United States. And as far as I know, there are a lot of farmers losing their land on a daily basis. They're being repossessed. Their farms are being repossessed by banks and so forth. And we've got the same problem in South Africa. The problem there is slightly worse, because there the government is telling the people that the farmers are the enemies of the people because they control all the land, which is absolute lie, because the government controls 90% of the land, right, and they own all the land. So what you got is a lot of angry and confused black people that are homeless and so forth, that are attacking the farmers, thinking that they're greedy, rich farmers, which in the meantime the poor guys have got nothing. And so what in the Ubuntu movement, we've created a model solution for this. And I've shared this with 2, maybe 3 farmers' unions. And I can tell you, the response was so mind-blowing that I'm so excited to, just like I can't wait to speak to the tribal chiefs, I can't wait to get back and start talking to the farmers' unions and start implementing this as much as we can, as quickly as we can, because it provides protection for the farmers. It makes them heroes among the people in the area. It provides food and abundance, not only for the farmers, but the people participating, and for the greater Ubuntu community as a whole. And part of that would require, well, basically what the system does, what it suggests is that farmer makes his land available to the people. So I've got this land, I'm going to lose it. Why don't we just rather utilize it and for the best of everyone? In return for the use of the land, the farmer retains 33% of whatever they grow. 66% goes to the Ubuntu community and the people that work the land and the greater Ubuntu community. The people can then move onto the farm, establish their little rondavels and their huts, and live there and work the land. At the same time, we would have to create, the Ubuntu movement will provide the petrol and the diesel and fixing through people that have got skills fixing the tractors and the implements, while the farmer provides these tractors and implements to be used with the land and provides these skills and teaches the people what to farm, when to plant, how to sow and how to reap and harvest and so forth. They responded so positively to this that it blew my mind. And some of them were very elite farmers, wine farmers that make millions, and they feel threatened. So this thing applies to farmers that are about to lose their stuff and farmers at the top end of the scale. They love the philosophy, it endears them to the people, but more importantly, it provides abundance. What it then does is it provides, imagine if you just have 1,000 farmers doing this, the amount of abundance you'll create that goes into the greater Ubuntu warehouses. Right now you've bypassed the co-ops and the distribution of agricultural produce goes straight into Ubuntu warehouses where people come and collect their stuff. And if you can't come and collect it, then you have what we've started setting up, are Ubuntu network marketers or Ubuntu distributors that go from the city to the Ubuntu warehouse and distribute it from the Ubuntu warehouse to the people that live in the high rises in the city. What do the people in the city do? They contribute something else. They might not be able to get out of the high rise onto the land or into a factory, but they can do some online work. They can do whatever. There's always something that somebody can do. Or maybe they can just contribute $100 a month towards that movement, with which we then buy the petrol and fix the tractors to grow the food, which makes them participate in the system. So we'll still need money, obviously. So this is how people in the city can participate. But like I told you, we're just scratching the surface here. I've worked through this whole model over a 10-year period on so many different levels that we really have a very simple, cohesive structure. And the moment you start breaking it down, it is really simple to understand how it works. But what it in essence does, it hijacks the control of food from Monsanto and the co-ops and the wholesalers and etc., and puts it right back in the hands of the people.
Well, I
And
love
so for that, you would need some sort of a membership card or a transaction card, so that if you're a member of the Ubuntu movement, you can go to the warehouse and get your weekly supply of whatever it is, because you know you're on the system and you're a contributing member, whether it's physical labor or a few dollars a month.
Right.
At this stage, it's the beginning. This is the intro level.
Okay, got you. Well, and one of the things that I'm hearing you talk about is this transition that we need to make.
Yeah.
We still have a world we're operating in money.
Exactly.
And we're not going to get from there to
Exactly.
where we're
Yeah.
going without some way of transferring our wealth to our
Correct.
community, right? And so that's why I was bringing up this cryptocurrencies just in general, because they're completely independent of this
Yeah.
banking cartel.
Yeah. So we could create.
It's just
we could create an Ubuntu cryptocurrency on the internet.
Yeah, every community could create their own
Yeah.
cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. And all of that could be a possibility.
Right.
But again, I'm not in control of this. The communities will decide what they want to do.
Right.
So
And that's
I'm not
important.
here to
Right.
tell them what to do. The people will decide. They'll have their council of elders and say, well, how are we going to protect ourselves against this or that? And they will get the smart people to come and suggest, let's do this, let's do that. And this is how we connect with the next Ubuntu community, and this, figure out how to use the warehouses, how the farmers benefit. The farmers still need to survive. They still need to pay their mortgage. So they will retain the 33% that they can sell on the global market. 33% of something that they paid nothing for is a lot more than they normally make if they put all the money and labor into it.
Right, exactly.
So they're very happy with that dispensation. They love it. And
Well,
it costs them nothing.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
My name is Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Of the family Schurheck, German, and proud of it. Okay. There's something that kind of clicked a few minutes ago on one of the slides where it said in the manifesto that the people have the right to, or the wealth of the resources and minerals.
Yes.
So my question to you is, and let's just kind of skip the work for a second, just you personally. Do you believe that the earth is a living being?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that it is a conscious living being?
The highest form of consciousness.
Sovereign,
that is
therefore,
it.
correct?
Yes.
And so do any of us have a right to just go build any of these communities and take whatever we need without that being a part of the consideration?
Absolutely not. This
Is
is why
that-
everything.
Okay.
This is why everything in this, which I may not have stressed enough, is built. Communities are built along sacred geometry with natural flow of energy on planet Earth. All these communities will become restructured. Maybe I didn't mention it. This is part of the exciting process of taking what's currently square boxes that people live in into beautiful, smooth, flowing energy lines and buildings and that convert from that to that. And the other important thing is, that we talk about minerals, mining minerals. Stop there. A world without money, will we still be mining minerals? No, of course not. Just if you don't understand that, do I need to explain it to you? Can I explain to you why we're not going to be mining minerals? Because some people often can't connect those dots. The moment there's no money, and everything is done through cooperation and collaboration and consensus for the greatest benefit of all, can you not see that one of the first things that will go, first of all, electricity as we know it is gone. Free electricity and alternative energy is in, like Flynn, right? Virtually overnight, we'll see thousands of new alternative sources of energy. That means the roads will not be used. We're not going to drive cars. We're probably not even going to use trains, although trains may be a very important transport modality in the beginning, in the transitional phase, because they connect the entire country. And they're far less destructive than driving on roads. And so you will have alternative energy so that whatever transportation we use will levitate. So we're not going to need to drive on roads. So roads are going to become completely unused and not necessary. And you've got to take this back to its original source. The moment you remove money, everything changes. Everything in our reality changes. So we're not going to be mining minerals, because today the only reason we're mining minerals is to feed the industrial machine.
So would you say then, leaving that particular language in the manifesto and what you're putting out to the public is not, I don't know, it just kind of like really flashed out at me that you would have mineral wealth in there is the right of the people, or that would even be mentioned. And I can understand as a transition, it's like, there's no perfect solution right now.
Yeah.
And I think, first of all, the most beautiful part of your work is that it's a doorway and a freaking hammer in the head. Like, if you figure out that we've been lied to about the money and about actually being slaves, the rest of it is all, oh my God, there's collaboration and we can just go have fun and, create all kinds of cool shit. So this is like a giant raft boat coming by, because a lot of us know when you stumble on this modern knowledge and you figure this, and you first figure out, oh my God, we really are slaves. Oh my God, we really are, descendants of the Anunnaki. Yeah. I was just scared scared shitless. Like, what do you do now? Who do you trust? And then here comes this white guy who's a descendant of the same people that got us in this problem, So
Okay, so
that's a
remember,
good point. That's actually
I totally agree with what you're saying, and believe me, I had many sleepless nights wondering about how to deal with the mineral issue. In South Africa, you may not know this, it is a huge issue, because we are mineral rich, one of the leading countries exporting minerals. The people of South Africa have no benefit from the diamonds, the coal, the platinum, the gold, the chrome, the uranium, the freaking anything you can imagine. We mine everything in that country. People do not benefit whatsoever. Who does benefit, for example, from the platinum, Impala platinum mines and Rustenburg platinum mines, where I grew up as well, are the one chief. They're known as the Bafokeng tribe. They are billionaires, the Bafokeng tribe, because they get 5% of the profits of the platinum mining. Right? So now suddenly all these wealthy people, and the king benefits, the chief benefits, the people don't benefit. So it's a very sensitive issue. So in South Africa, you have to deal with it, and you have to stand strong on what are you going to do about the minerals. And you have to state very clearly that the minerals do not belong to the government, they do not belong to the chiefs, they belong to the people. So that the people resonate with you, because that's what they are thinking. What we're going to do about it from there on is a separate issue.
Do you address, I haven't read the book, do you address any of that kind of consciousness in the Ubuntu book?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very much so.
So it was my thank you that you're a great raft coming by, and to also commend you on the presentation you did last year at the Breakthrough Energy.
Oh, thanks.
To squeeze all that in 1 hour was freaking amazing.
I know.
Hats
I spoke
Thank you.
as fast as I could.
It was awesome. Thank you again for what
thank
you.
you. Thanks very much.
Have a sip, Michael, you deserve it. Well, I've done a lot of things in the world that people don't know what I've done or where I've been. And one of them was in Fiji. I became a wintertime advisor to the president, Ratu Panirginilau. and I worked with a number of people, and his nephew. I worked with him and started a solar company, and it's still going. It's Fiji Solar Electric. And I had inventions of how to reserve a lot of the food that they get without the power, and designing sort of like a potato cellar and a heating area for the outside, and magnifying it with sunlight in directions like a solar oven, creating the heat, charging the gases with heat, circulating it around, and having refrigeration in rooms like this where the people could store their crops and their food, and it would stay fresh and last longer. But you know, the government didn't see it that way.
Of course not. So,
They-
Edward,
they-
I would like to ask you if you'd be prepared to share that with us in South Africa, because we can certainly put that kind of basic technology to use.
I am packing my bags right now. I know that there's a great deal of need over there, and you know, I'm almost 70, and if I don't get my shit together somewhere, I'll lose it. And you know, they'll put me and all my ideas in the box, and I'm not ready for the box. The thing is, if you use your mind and you think the things about what he's saying and doing, it's all possible. And
Thanks, Ed. So let's. Is there anyone else that we need to give some time?
okay,
Yes. Update on Nassim Haramein and Maroc. Thanks, Ed. See you out there. No news. I'm waiting for some of the people that we've met on our trip in the last 2 weeks to get some feedback to us. Yeah. On our website very soon. Really, while we've been in Australia and in the USA, we've had a mini coup happen to us back home. The guy closest to us has sort of pretty much started hijacking the whole Ubuntu movement while we're away. So it's very, very stressful for us. And all these community projects that I've shown you that I've been nurturing for the last 6 years, suddenly he's just muscled his way in there, and I don't know what they're doing, and they just have no idea what the big plan is, but you know, they're sending us emails like, well, we'll take it over, we'll carry it because we've got access to funds, and you know, if you don't agree with us, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who does it as long as we do it. And I said, no, you got the wrong end of the stick here, brother. There's a very specific plan that's at stake here, and it has to all work together. It's called contributionism. It's not a free-for-all for people just to come and fund this and fund that. That's exactly why things don't work. And so this is currently going on while we're here, and Louise is going to have to go home this coming weekend to take care of this and deal with it. But it's so I may have to be posting some things on the Ubuntu website that, you know, one hates to do because it causes panic throughout the people that follow you around the world. They say, what's going on? So I'm still trying to process this, internalize it, and figure out how to share this information with the global Ubuntu movement without ruffling too many feathers and destabilizing anything. But it's a huge problem, and it's just all ego. People saying, well, I'm going to go raise the money. And in essence, what they did, as I can tell you, Sid is the guy that ran with us that helped me in the elections, and he pretty much was excellent. He went to all the IEC meetings and was great on the election side and the political thing into the elections. And then afterwards, he started communicating with one of the guys from the other political parties who gave up on their party, and he's a long-term South African family, well-respected family in the political movement and the struggle against apartheid, and he's decided to come over and join Ubuntu. And he's got a lot of friends in the USA. He grew up in exile in the USA, and he's telling us he can come and raise a lot of money for the Ubuntu movement here in the USA. So he started joining us and putting together a strategy, and Sid and him got very close. And before we knew, we left South Africa, and they were going to join us in Los Angeles, where we were going to meet a bunch of people to say, look, this is what we need to start all these community projects. Next thing we know, we go onto the internet and we found a website that they launched called Ubuntu Planet International, without my name, without Louisa's name, mentioning all these other people's names that are running this Ubuntu Planet International, and what money they are raising for all these community projects, completely sidelining us, using my logo, which belongs to the Ubuntu movement and the Ubuntu party, and taking a woman's name and bank account in Holland for people to deposit money into that bank account. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. So we freaked out, say, what is this? And we called and finally got hold of them on Skype, and the answer to us was, well, we did this for your best interest, because when we started try to raise money, many people found out about you and who you are, and they're very uncomfortable funding you because you talk about ETs. I'm not kidding you. So we created this front so that they wouldn't know that you're involved, so we could still raise money for the Ubuntu movement. Yeah, we're going to lie to raise money. So this is what they do to the Ubuntu movement. It's taken 10 years of credibility, of trust, of goodwill and good faith to develop. They're going to destroy in 5 seconds flat. So I freaked out. I said, get that thing off the internet right now. And they still argued and struggled. You don't know what you're talking about. You're out of touch and all this. And it's like, excuse me? And this is after me taking him on a whirlwind tour of some of these community projects. The day before we left, I took him on a tour to say, right, this is the soccer fields, this is the plan of action, this is how we're going to develop this stuff. Within 2 weeks of me leaving, they've now organized a coup with some woman in Holland who claims she can raise a lot of money for the clinic, and that's all they're going to fund. And now they're telling us they're continuing with the fundraising, and they're going to fund the clinic, and they're going to fund this, whether we like it or not, because it doesn't matter who funds it as long as it gets funded. And this is where the ego starts to come in, right? And pretty much hijacking everything I worked for the last 10 years while we've been going around the world spreading the Ubuntu message. And this was the guy closest to me during the elections. So, yeah, it's not going to work. So we've put an intention out there that they're not going to raise the funding because it's going to be, and they keep quoting me to myself. Oh, this is not Ubuntu. You're trying to prevent us from doing stuff. And I said, no, hold on. Don't quote me to myself, right? You don't understand what Ubuntu is. And they say, if it's not good for everyone, it's no good at all. I said, exactly. So, but the thing is that they're not communicating with me. They're not responding to emails, but they're copying me to emails, including me in emails to other people that they're communicating with. So it's a hostile takeover. They're using what they think is their financial muscle around the world. And I don't think it's going to work in any case. But I'm still going to have to put out a statement to clarify this, because it might cause a few ripples. So as long as you are aware of this, this is what's been going on. So if this ever comes up, you've heard it from me as to what the attempt has been. Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that this has happened repeatedly to people who try to better the planet. If there's anything, alien, ET, anything that they can split you apart with, they will. They've done it to James, when he's gotten things going. And then someone from somewhere comes and they make you out to be an idiot in the mass media, so that any honest interest falls apart right away. And then they move in and take it over. They did it to Alfred Weber and Michael Salla, who started up exopolitics and caused a big schism with them. So now they've got both sides fighting each other. That's all they want. Because once that starts, the progression towards making this realization falls apart. And it's like internet trolls. They just come in to split it apart. They do whatever they have to. And they did it to Brooks Agnew. He's got this electric truck company. And they sent someone in to get close to him. The guy took all of his information, all of his patents, and all of his funding, and took it off and blew it and almost ruined everything. And at the same time, they had someone threatening him from India or something. And they did a lot of that. So that every time somebody gets close to doing something like what you're doing, you know you're bothering them when this kind of thing starts to happen.
Yeah.
And
But you know, luckily we live in a small town, and I initiated this with the people in the community. They all know me. He's a newcomer in there. They try to muscle their way in there in the 2 weeks that we were gone, and you know, as soon as I get back, it's just going to be a few words to say, listen, these guys are upsetting the apple cart. They're deceiving everyone, and they won't work with them. So, but enough of that. Let's go. Are there any other things that bug you? How will this work? And I've got a great story that I'm going to tell you as well as soon as. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to, I saw you had a picture of Credo Mutua, so I thought if you had any stories.
Yes, about Credo Mutua. Okay, very briefly, Credo Mutua is one of the living treasures in the world today. He is an incredible source of knowledge and information, a carrier, custodian of ancient African knowledge that's been cast down for thousands of years. And apparently he is now training a new person to take over that knowledge and wisdom from him because his son was killed, so he couldn't hand it over to his son. His book, Indaba My Children, has a lot of that information in it, so if you don't have a copy of Indaba My Children, go get it. Credo has shared a lot of information with people like David Icke, with Linda Tucker, with many other researchers around the world. Many of them have published their works. We, however, have other contacts that we know that have got hundreds of hours of Credo on video, which has not been published yet. So we're trying to get that out as well. So really someone very important that's given us a lot of information about who we are, where we come from, and why we're here. And it's all consistent with Native American culture, with original people of Australia. It's all very consistent. And Credo is old now. I think he's 93 now, and last time we saw him, he wasn't healthy, and he was quite bitter and angry with the world. And at that stage, I decided I don't think I want to go visit him again because he needs to be left alone. But I've heard of other people that have seen him since then, and he seems apparently fine. So I hope that his health holds out for as long as it needs to. Mutwa, Credo Mutwa, M-U-T-W-A. Mutwa. Indaba My Children. But you can also find other books of his. I'm not sure how many of them are in print. There's Zulu Shaman. Then there's if you just Google Credo Mutwa, you'll find the information. And he's been ripped off completely. His books have been published by publishers that never paid him, and so forth. You know, I did a recording with him that we try to sell so we can pay him some money, but it's not selling. So I don't know what to do about it. So, yes. Okay. The question is, I was on the road with Richard Dolan for a month across Canada. That's true. We shared an RV. That's true. We didn't share a bed. I can tell you, he is not a raving queen. Yeah. But he's a great guy. Richard and I got on like a house on fire. He's a wonderful guy, great human being. He's got a pure heart, and I love him dearly. And he's got his research. He's a great carrier of information in the UFO field, and has a lot of very important information and knowledge and new information all the time. In fact, while we were in Ottawa, he went to a museum, a private museum in somebody's home, where there was a NASA scientist from the 50s that claimed to have a UFO abduction, who met a conscious abduction. He was taken by ETs on board a craft, and he was told a lot of information. And he was a NASA scientist, and he came back and told everyone about it and wrote papers about it, and he carried on working for NASA. Okay, he wasn't kicked out. This is amazing, because he didn't write a book about it and so forth. And Richard went to his widow or someone remaining alive, and to the private library, and he photographed all the documents. And what stood out for him was one section in that document where they explained to him the technology behind the UFO and the craft, and it talks about resonance, vibration, and sound. So he said, "Oh, Michael, you'll be interested in this. Look." So he's still supposed to give me all those documents for me to read and work into my research, but he forgot to give it to me, and I forgot to ask him. So Richard Dolan's a cool dude. Yeah. Okay, so I want to tell you a great, interesting story, and maybe we'll end it on that. And it just shows you how the contributionism philosophy, a world without money, is so easily. Once you've clicked over that, everything changes. Fundamentally turns upside down the way we experience life. Everything changes for the better, infinitely better. So Louise and I were on a tour with these people from all over the world in January, February this year. That was the beginning of our touring. And we got to Cape Town towards the end of the trip. We stayed in this beautiful resort on Noordhoek Beach at a place called Monkey Valley Resort. And it looks down onto Long Beach, which is this 5-mile-long pristine beach. And it's just beautiful. And so we're sitting at night with my feet in the water, and this group of American wine merchants come in under the leadership of one British aristocratic sounding kind of gentleman who speaks with a potato in his mouth like this. And his name is either Marmaduke or Montgomery. I have his card somewhere. And he was the son of the world's most famous wine buyer. And he has inherited his father's empire, and he lives in New York. And from New York, he supplies the whole of the Americas with wine, the finest wines money can buy. So once a year, he comes to Cape Town to buy wine, because South Africa has got a very old 500-year-old, 400-year-old wine industry with some phenomenal wines. So they were buying on their annual wine buying spree, and we were sitting around the pool up near the cottage overlooking the beach. And what do you do? And he told me that they're here buying wine. I said, wow, it's amazing. And then he says, so what do you do? And it's not easy to explain to people what I do. So eventually I sort of break the surface, you know. So if I tell them, well, I deal with ancient alien technology and saving the world from economic slavery. It's like I think it'll be like, okay. So you got to broach that question very gently. And eventually, when I started telling him, you know, I researched this and that, and I pretty much propose a whole new social structure, and I teach people about the origins of money and how we must get away from this enslavement, and we propose this thing called contributionism, and you could see he was interested but very confused. And then the debate started, well, how can a world without money work, you know? What about drive and ambition? And without ambition, we'll have nothing. And stuff like that, you know, I've heard that a million times. And competition and all this. And then, you know, once I eventually got him to thinking, maybe I thought he's getting onto the track. And he said, so in this world without money, where everything is available to everyone, who's going to get to drink the best wine? And I loved it, because I love it when people challenge me, you know, because I've heard thousands of these things. And yeah, exactly. So, and normally, you know, the answers are really simple, but this one, I must admit, got me, didn't stump me, but I didn't expect that question. So I went, okay, well, first of all, who's going to drink the best wine? First of all, we have to determine what is the best wine. You know, who tells you that this is the best wine? And his answer was, well, everybody in the wine industry knows where the best wine comes from. There's only one specific section in France that has got these conditions and that, and the soil is this and that. And only this 1 acre of soil grows the best wine in the world. And I said, says who? He says, well, everybody knows it. I said, well, that's what you think. I can promise you that if you get a bunch of schmucks from the street and you put you do a blind wine test with them, they'll probably spit it out thinking it tastes foul. And he was highly insulted by that, obviously. So that didn't go down well as my argument. So I had to change my tack. So I said, okay, well, let's assume that there is this one place in the world that makes the best wines. And I said, I'm going to have to give you some information that may not resonate with your level of knowledge of the scientific world. So I'm going to tell you some things that you're going to have to take at face value as scientifically achievable. Otherwise, what I'm going to tell you is going to make no sense. I said, well, try me. I'm a smart guy. You know, I've heard a lot of things, or something like that. Just the arrogance is spectacular. You know, the aristocracy runs deep in those people's blood. And so I said to him, look, so in a world without money, there is no restraint on technology. So much so that the climatic and the soil and the humidity conditions that grow that specific vine somewhere in France can be reproduced anywhere else in the world to grow exactly the same vine anywhere you choose to grow it. Oh, rubbish. It's absolutely not possible. I've never heard of that. It's such rubbish. And I said, okay, well, I thought you would say that, but I'm going to blow your mind even more. Because in a world without money, since you don't understand that and you need to go away and do some research and then phone me up and we can have a discussion again when you've informed yourself. And this is where you have to start, standing your ground and tell the people that they actually don't know anything and that I've never heard of it is not a scientific argument. So and believe it, they get away with it all the time. What kind of rubbish? I've never heard of it. Really? You must be an ignorant kind of guy. You've never heard of it. Because everyone else seems to know about it. Why have you not heard of this? So this is what you should do. Go away, do some research, and when you've heard of it, call me up and let's have another discussion. So then I said to him, now I'm going to have to tell you some more stuff that you might not understand. So in a world without money where science and development is not constrained, we'll be able to reproduce the molecular structure of that wine and create it out of water anywhere else you want, in your frickin' kitchen, in the barn. So you can recreate that best wine in the world that only grows in frickin', I nearly swore, in France or Idaho. And you can recreate that exact molecular structure and create that wine in abundance as much as you want. So the answer to your question is, who's going to drink the best wine? The answer is everyone. Boy, he didn't like that. So I hope that answers some of your misconceptions, or if you're still not sure, how a moneyless society always corrects itself for the best outcome of everyone. Because everything is possible. There are no restraints or restrictions to achieving anything imaginable or conceivable. That's how simple it is. Thanks for coming. Have a great weekend and a great night. Thank you, people. You're absolutely wonderful. You make my heart sing. Don't reduce me to tears now.